Welcome back. So time now to talk about that important subject matter, how to deal with emergencies and reining on the ever-increasing spate of accidents as a result of tanker spills and 40-foot containers falling over and all the other related aspects of emergencies. So joining us this morning for this conversation is Mr. Ogenekaru Jockey. He's the Managing Director, Okama International Firefighting Oil and Gas. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Good morning, sir, and thank you for joining us on the program.
Good morning.
And so we'll be having other
Point
guests.
of correction, please.
Oh, pardon me.
My company name is Okama Infinity Nigeria Limited.
Okama Infinity, okay, but there was an Okama there.
Nigeria.
Thank you for the correction. So, there's so many sides to this conversation. We could talk about response, we could talk about awareness, but let's start with, the causes, of this fire, tankers falling over, containers falling over in the first place, which would be the compliance, or the part of regulatory agencies ensuring that they comply. What is your assessment, of the work of the regulatory agencies in this regard?
Well, I would say the work of the regulatory agency on this regards, they are trying, but I think they still need to do more. Most of our incidents that we are having on our highways is both ways. Most of the people mounting this truck, some of them are ill-experienced. They are not professionally trained to be a truck driver. In other developing countries and every other places, for you to mount a fire truck, a tanker, those are specialized driving skills. You need to go for additional training, which most of our drivers here in Nigeria, before they mount those trucks, are not trained for. So in any little thing, you see them panicking, if not for panicking, roads and all those, it can result to a lot of incident, like the tanker flipping over.
Also, Mr. Jockey, let's go back a bit, because there is no guarantee that by tomorrow or the coming weeks we're not going to hear another incident. So it's almost like we're worried every other time as to why these things keep happening. And if there were just accidents that were happening and people are not dying, it's a different kettle of fish, but lives are involved here. So let's talk about where you started from, the drivers themselves. What level of skill is required in terms of basics of the basics? We can talk about the use of drugs and all of that maybe as we progress.
Yeah, for the drivers, you see, for the basic thing that for you to be a driver, a truck driver, at least you should be able to read and to write. If you're able to read, you should know the signs of normal cautions for the driving test that they normally give you, the basic driving test. So for that experience, we need at least above someone with basic WAEC secondary school experience should be to be someone that's going to mount a truck, not just somebody who cannot read, cannot write, just go in and say, today you're a truck driver. Maybe somebody just say from motorboy, and the next thing you see him driving. If you go to places, even where we go for driving tests, I don't see us having those things that will put those people in place to say, okay, let's test them to know how they can drive. Let's test their system to know if they're on drugs. Because most of them, they're influenced of drugs because they just want to arrive to their destination and they want to speed and a lot of stuff. So a lot need to be put in place when you talk about our driving system, when you talk about this fire.
I believe they should also have an understanding of the kind of machines that they're mounting, the trucks. So who should take responsibility really for this training? Help us understand how they're recruited. Are they just recruited based on the basic knowledge of driving, or do the companies that employ them take responsibility for training and retraining them?
Like in Nigeria, like you see, the road safety is supposed to, and the VIOs are the ones supposed to mount our our road to make sure that a lot of people who are mounting this truck are well educated. But you find out most cases that some of those people, they can get their driver's license without not going through the right appropriate channel. And with doing that, already you who is the one employed, the employers, they don't really check through to see how can we even know that this man that is claiming to be a truck driver actually qualified to be a truck driver. So anybody that just comes that I can do a truck, I can drive a truck, the next thing you see that person mounting the truck and it's on the highway driving. And at that point in time, anything that happened, our fate is on the hands of that driver who does not have experience when it comes about driving. So I think what we should do...
Mr. Jockey, are you saying that it's the VIO and the road safety that are supposed to take responsibility for training them or for ascertaining that indeed
yes.
they can drive?
Yes.
So
yes.
Yes,
that you train them periodically, and also you who is the employer should make sure that whoever you are employing should be able to mount that truck, have the proper qualification or the proper training to be a truck driver or a tanker driver.
Mr. Jockey, just before we bring in our guest right here in our Lagos studio, I wanted you talked about qualification, but I think that right now what we're dealing with, the ones that are not exposed in terms of education, they are in the majority. So let's deal with what we have right now. How do we manage that first before we can talk about recruiting new ones?
I think basically what we need to do for now is to make sure that the ones that are already driving, who are there, the road safety, and should make sure that they go for periodically training, to train them more, to let them know how they should be able to mount their truck and to drive properly, to know the road signs, to know when they are not supposed to, if you are supposed to apply a rule, you're not supposed to drink and drive. A lot of these need to be, it's all about training, educate them. Even in their own local language, you can tell them, they will understand, and let them know that overspeeding and things like that, the normal basic rules of when driving. You know, don't drive when you are on bend, don't drive when it's raining, don't drive when the weather is foggy. All those things need to be, don't drive when you overload. Some of these tankers are meant to be carrying 33 liters of petrol. You see them loading 60,000 liters of petrol in their truck. And at that point, the capacity of the truck, anything that happens, the truck will flip. And once it flips, the next thing you see people scooping, and the next thing is fire. So those are the physical training that we need to give to them to let them know, number one, you must not overload your truck. Number two, you must not speed. When you are overspeeding, it's not good. Number three, you don't take alcohol or narcotics and go into this, mount the steering and say you want to drive.
All right, so the conversation is taking shape already, and Mr. Timothy Wagu, President, Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria, ISPON, has since joined us right here in our Lagos studio. And when I say taking shape, issues are, emerging about the knowledge of these tanker drivers in the first place, who's responsible for training them. And the position being expressed by Mr. Jockey is that the road safety agencies, the VIO, vehicle inspection officers, should take responsibility for training them. I would have thought that, like other drivers of other vehicles who take responsibility for their own training, tanker drivers who would want to take up that profession should get trained first of all and then approach the agencies for certification. I wonder what your thoughts are on this. Do you agree with him that the safety agencies should take responsibility for their training?
I think it's about standards. The standards in that industry determines what the employee should do. An employee, especially when it comes to driving, is supposed to be a driver and then employed as a driver to perform the function of a driver. Now, if he is not a driver, a lot of them were not drivers when they started sitting in that trailer they are driving. So they just learned by observing one driver and automatically became drivers. Very few of them have license. So we're talking of standard. What is supposed to be the standard in that industry, you hardly see a road safety officer or a vehicle inspection officer ask a trailer driver of license. It's so bad. It's so bad that a trailer, a very big tipper, the 30 tons capacity, stopped somewhere very close to the governor's office in one of the southeast states. And it was early morning by 6 o'clock, and I was driving. Got to the point, and I said, that vehicle is not moving, it's stationary. And by the side, I saw a police officer armed, and I asked him, don't you think this can cause accident? No reflector, nothing, no sign that something is standing here. And it was still under obscurity before 6 o'clock. And he said, he asked me, he said, Oga, does a tipper have reflector in Nigeria? So the question now is, can the absurd become the standard? Can the unacceptable become the norm? So the drivers in the haulage industry, they are often not tested by their employers. Somebody brings them. Take this man, he's a driver, and he starts driving. Or this man has been a helper or a conductor to a driver for years. So now he can drive. And before you know it, somebody will ask him to move a heavy tonnage of goods, of liquid product, volatile organic material, to a distance. We're not talking of the brake efficiency of the vehicle. We're not talking of the overall mechanical state of the vehicle. Because when you are looking at a haulage truck, beyond the articulated trailers, these haulage trucks, like the last speaker was talking from online, if you look at it, somebody authorizes the importation, or at least somebody clears an imported tanker from the port. What's the standard? We're talking of standard. What is the standard now in the country? The asphalt on our road, what's the gauge, the thickness? Is it meant to carry such tonnage? Because we are seeing from 30 to 33,000 liters. 33,000 liters of PMS could be about 30 tons, because 30,000 liters of water is 30 tons, because water is the standard liquid. So this 33,000 seems now forgotten, and we are now going to 45,000. We are now going to 60,000. And when you have this load, you cannot hold your brake. You cannot control your brake.
I like where you're going to. So we're going to look at it from the mechanical and the human angle. I want to stay with the human angle. Laws are meant to regulate our activities. They say law is law, the lawless, and all of that. This is where we have law. So are you saying that there's a failure, a systemic failure here? That's where we have what we're dealing with today. Because for me, if it was just their goods and getting burnt and all of that, as much as that is regrettable, you can't compare it to human lives being lost. The level of measure that has been put in place for captains that fly planes and every other person, a doctor who treats patients, and those of us who are journalists, what we say that could blow up the country or unite the country, why can't the people in charge, what is stopping them from doing their job? Because people die. People have died. As we're speaking, people have died. So what else can we do to put fire to the feet of regulators to do their job? Because I don't expect these guys to be responsible, some of them.
Yes. From the humanitarian angle, lives lost in a very gory sight of human beings roasted. And if you ask me, these people were not, nobody went to their homes to set them on fire. Something brought them outside. They responded to something. And the mechanical state of the vehicle must be bad for the vehicle to even fall, the tanker truck. then before you talk of the content being spilled, and before you talk of people going to scoop the spilled product. Now, we are looking at, you see, accidents. They have human factors, they have situational factors, they also have environmental factors. So if we look at why people are dying, we feel bad because it's human. We shouldn't just overlook that. But the systemic issue there is that information, sensitization, awareness building is at its lowest ebb by even government. I listened to senators in the Senate Committee on Information talking about a very negligible amount of money being allocated to Ministry of Information. So we are looking at information, sensitization. We are looking at organizations like National Orientation Agency. What is the level of awareness in the public? Even in that haulage industry, how many of the trailer or tanker trucks have radio in their cabin for the drivers to even listen? Let's assume the media is putting out a whole lot of jingles. Are they even in position to listen? And then where they park the trailer, because when the man is involved in an accident and is the driver, something must have led to something. When we are doing root cause analysis, you may just find out that the trailer park or wherever they are parked, whether on the roadside or a well-designed place, the main goods, the main food, the main beverage you see there is alcohol. So behavior of the driver is tied to his intake of substance. So there are a lot of things. Then the environment where they park these trucks, go and look around, you see defecation. So there are too many things we are trying to look at.
You know, Mr. Iwagu, it goes back to responsibility. And you said at the beginning of your commentary that sometimes these employers, you know, they take on a tanker driver without even ensuring that indeed in the first place the tanker driver has been certified, has knowledge of both driving and even of the vehicle, you know. And we can talk about also how the ownership of this tanker driver, this equipment, they're not spirits, they're not unknown. So are these people too powerful to be brought to book, to be prosecuted, to take responsibility for the loss of human lives amid these accidents? And I'm bringing this question to you, Mr. Jockey. Are these people too powerful? Are they too big, you know, to be prosecuted? Those who employ these tanker drivers who do not take responsibility, who are not well trained, and who sometimes probably are driving under the influence?
They're not too big. Nobody's above the law in Nigeria. Like I would say, in about 5 years ago, the Federal Fire Service, the Road Safety, and I myself, because I deal with a product called the encapsulating agent, F500, you know, and which is a very good product for combustible fire, for flammable liquid fires, which is the typical fire you see in the tanker and stuff. When I came in and met with the Controller General of the Federal Fire Service, Ministry of Interior then, the minister, all of us, we flew, we went, we did good examination about this product to see how effective the product was. And after coming back, we said, no, it's need for sensitization for the tankers drivers and the tankers owner. They had their national convention in Ibadan. Then their national president was one, Olatidi was their national president. And the secretary then took pains, called all stakeholders, even the DPR was there and everybody. We were able to demonstrate how a encapsulator works, how I can encapsulate the product if there's a spill or in case of any emergency. And they encourage them. You know, normally you cannot force them to say you must buy this product, but they encourage them to say this is a good product for you to use in case of incident of any such or spill when you are discharging your fuel, so that you can put this in use. So we did the training, and they were all impressed with it. After that, we sold to some, and even the Joint Committee of the House of National Assembly and the DPRO stakeholder, fire service, road safety, we all came together to say, let's encourage them to that they can have a capsulated agent in their vehicles, in their tank farm and stuff. After about 6 months or thereabout here, they slowed down because the fire incident at that point in time dazzled down a bit. And before you know, they came back to their usual character of not even having any extinguishers at all. If they could even have a little extinguisher in their vehicle, maintain their vehicle properly, I think all this can be avoided. And they keep telling me they have insurance.
Let's come to you, Mr. Wago. Punitive measure, I'm going to stay with that part because if you're not reprimanded properly and sufficiently, bad character continues in terms of, consequence for bad behavior. What is in the law right now, as far as these haulage drivers are concerned, when investigations are carried out and it shows that they are responsible for some of these accidents? What is in the law and what can be added? Perhaps maybe ban some people from driving forever if it's possible. I'm just thinking of very extreme cases. Because when these things happen and it explodes, people die. I'm not talking about people going to scoop and get exploded. No, I mean driving through and some of these things happen, people die. Nobody holds anybody responsible sometimes.
And nobody holds anybody responsible because our enforcement system, the prosecutory system, and the judicial system, their functions are interwoven. The policeman apprehends. What does he do? You will see some police stations are like junkyards, trailer parks. Accidented vehicles are kept there. And after some long time, somebody has settled himself and left, irrespective of what he did. 2 nights ago, I was driving, following a very large tanker, but it was not carrying products of petroleum, but it was carrying wheat or grains from one of the industrial places in Apapa. And that was when I noticed that most of the bus stops, beautiful bus stops built by Lagos State, destroyed by some of these trucks. They just brush through. Yeah. And then I was saying, okay, if somebody arrests this one now, you may end up seeing him settle his way, paying somebody who has nothing to do with maintaining that infrastructure.
Is there a hopeless situation? I'm looking for solutions here.
The solutions is that the whole thing will start from the policing of our environment. We have monitoring agencies, we have groups, they go around. You can imagine now we have people who monitor building and construction, yet we have building collapse, almost one, at least one every day in Lagos, unreported, so many of them. So what you are seeing now is a very hopeless situation quite well, because the thing has eaten deep into both those who are supposed to be enforcing are not enforcing to safeguard society. They're enforcing to maybe get something out of it. So the watchdog needs to be watched if we must be very secure, and because the security of our society is tied to our attitude to laws and order, enforcement, prosecution. I have been in the court listening to a judge discuss about drivers and their issues. The judges are effective, but if somebody kills somebody with a cutlass, and at the end of the day, the policeman comes with an iron rod or a piece of wood as exhibit, as what the man used, whereas the medical report said the person's head was cut off with a sharp edge, and you are bringing a blunt rod. What do you expect the judge to say? The judge will start being a witness instead of a judge. So you see people go free because of the investigative and prosecutory processes.
Is this a question of complicity?
Yes, if you ask me, because there's no reason why a Nigerian who is knowledgeable enough, an adult, who is also given a responsibility of law enforcement and in an agency of government, will overlook that.
But in cases where, you know, death and destruction is evident and we can trace the ownership of the company for whose tanker has spilled over and led to the death now. So where that is evident and, you know, it cannot be contested and that can be tendered in a court of law, what do the rule books say? Because Jeffrey's question is quite, you know, instructive. What do the rule books say about culpability of the employers in this case and indeed the tanker drivers? Let's take that to Mr. Jockey now.
Okay.
In 60 seconds.
Yeah, you hold, even if you hold that person responsible to say, okay, you are guilty, charged, whatever, will that bring back the life and loss of properties the person have destroyed? I think what we should say in this case, we should encourage our tanker drivers to really go for training, and we encourage them to go. If you go to the Federal Fire Academy today, they are doing a great work. The current minister is doing a great work, putting a lot of resources and the Controller General of the Federal Fire Service. I think we should encourage these people to go for a proper training before mounting truck so that we can save life and humanity, because the destruction is too much. Every day or every other day we must have a tanker fall and there's one fire or the other concerning this fire tanker.
All right.
So we must really encourage them to really go back to the drawing board, encourage the owner to send their drivers back to the fire training school, and so they can get a proper training for you to man that vehicle, because if the life is gone, it's gone.
Right.
We're not talking about the content of the product. We're talking about human life, human properties.
All right.
Billions of naira you lose every day because of negligence of one crazy tanker driver.
By all means, a very productive conversation, and we must thank you very much, gentlemen, for your time on the program. We've been talking with Mr. Ogenekaro Jockey, the Managing Director of Okama Oil and Gas, who joined us from our Abuja studio. And we also have Mr. Timothy Iwagu, President, Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria, ISPON, who joined us here in our Lagos studio. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time.
Thank you.